on my daily stroll. Message for everyone, but most importantly, for the young men who grew up in homes without fathers. You're not fatherless because you had to still father yourself. So I'm taking this walk today with my son. My little daily dosage of walks, and what just came to me is fatherhood, brotherhood, adulthood. All those are important. You know, brotherhood, all those things at the time I could not say I had. I did, but in a more distorted way. The most vital one out of all of them, I did not say, which is childhood. Childhood is the root of all those things. Before you develop brotherhood, before you develop, before you even come into fatherhood, also before you even develop, what was the other one? My son. So yeah, again, the plane landing, but other than that, yeah. So the things that I named, the brotherhood, the fatherhood, adulthood, all three of those things are significant. But childhood is just as vital. Y'all bear with me, I'm trying to make sure my son is more comfortable. So yeah, all those things are important, but that childhood is first. And to my young men, to my men, to fathers, everyone, even if you aren't a father, you still had a childhood. And what I've seen display in society, wipe my camera on, what I've seen display in society when it comes to brotherhood, whether it be through frats, fraternity for those who don't know the term, these things are always been and most likely will always be. Can I say there's a healthy aspect? Somewhat way, shape, or form. But there's a lot of distortion and a lot of it that people don't pay attention to. For instance, there's a school located in Ohio, all boys school. And I grew up in a, predominantly darker community or environment. I didn't even know that all boys schools exist, all girls schools exist. And so it was interesting that I even saw a school that was predominantly people of a lighter shade, if you want to use the term Caucasian or white or whatever. And and I saw on the signs, said brotherhood, building better men or something they were saying on the sign. And so, how you doing? And so with that, I was asking myself, I need to create some very authentic truths about, from my perspective as a man, as a darker man, on how a lot of things that people don't know or aren't aware when it comes down to certain states, certain countries, the U.S. in particular, how divided things are, even when it comes to community settings and so forth. And as I was, at actually like a car show or, that they had there, I was, again, picking up on the energy of what you typically would see in areas where there are predominantly people that are Caucasian. There's a lot of passive aggressiveness or conflict avoidance. And conflict doesn't always got to be something aggressive, but more so in the aspect of just avoiding people of darker shade, which we, if you haven't known all too well, people know all too well, or I know all too well, are very familiar with when it comes to growing up in a country as such. And, it just says to me a lot about those very four things that I spoke about. These young men growing into adulthood, developing a brotherhood, and so forth. And I see that no difference than, I know people who are in clubs or frats, or whether you want to call it secret societies. And there's a pack, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it. There's, it's almost like there's this hidden knowledge or secrecy around wanting to just build on just with those who are, I would like to say, like-minded, but when I really look at the roots of why a lot of people, when it comes to the passive aggressiveness, build upon certain things, everyone has their reasoning, such as fraternities, HBCUs, and so forth, who at a time, some people can correct me on this or elaborate more, that they built things, and it's not all when it comes to all HBCUs, because there's a deeper rooted history to all of that. But, there are things where people are part of things where, if you want to say the upper echelon or the more, and this is in all different cultures and different shades of people, where they feel that more valuable, or just because they're of a certain class, certain people cannot be in it. But people don't know the depths of the humiliation, or if you want to call them humiliation rituals, or just basically as if founders or people who founded certain things are more higher status or more valuable, which a lot of dehumanization, if that's a word, or dehumanizing happens where people aren't accepted. So, I sit back and I wonder, with a lot of these schools or a lot of these things that have been created, is it truly built on integrity and authenticity? So, for example, if you're having a school that's predominantly, and knowing that you built a school that really you just want people who are of lighter shade, or, to be in there, is that really preparing your son to honor and respect other people of other nationalities or creeds, or to see them less valuable than them, or people that don't look like them? So sometimes I wonder, are you doing more harm than good, or are you just preparing them for when that time comes to just be, see themselves as more of a hierarchy, or in a place of higher value, just because someone doesn't have in the same class or same status or same realm of things, which again I find so hilarious, because when you're talking about a brotherhood, you're just wanting people of certain status, then eventually they're going to come a clash, or you're going to be met with the same energy with some of these fathers who have groomed their sons or prepared them, this deep-rooted hatred, whether it's for other people or people who are not of their status. You're just preparing them to not even live amongst people or know how to live amongst people, whether you like them or not. Because with men, the first thing we hold a value or substance is respect, admiration, and sex. And just the viewpoint on sex when it comes to some of us who have been exploited in childhood, and that could be different depending on your upbringing. And so with that, the topic of even adulthood, you're preparing these children in the childhood, again, for people who are not too fond of people that are darker. You're just preparing that child karmically to eventually come in contact with people who are darker. And through this process, they will develop a belief system for their fathers, or forefathers, as they say. And so when I look at the bigger grand scheme of things and how divided people are, when you look at your sports, when you look at the hidden hand, the hidden black hand, or even how a lot of things are hidden purposefully just to keep people divided. So again, when I look at a lot of even fraternities, whether it's HBCUs or different colleges or universities and fraternities, I can see the deep-rooted issue of people wanting to hold tight to something that truly doesn't have substance and integrity and value, especially when it comes to humanity, when it comes to the all. Again, you're just preparing your kids, which people as men can be so egotistical, or in their wounded ego, they take so much pride in, wanting to keep a legacy alive. And your dad became a doctor and he was a part of this fraternity. To each their own. But again, the integrity, the respect, you're grooming and breeding your sons and raising them to not respect themselves because you want them to be a part of things that really deep down you don't show admiration for yourselves and other men, no matter if they like you or not. I'm not asking you to like them. It's just, what are we preparing our sons for? Who are the visionaries? Who are the leaders? A lot of y'all don't realize, you're literally preparing them and breeding them from your own belief system for your own self-righteousness, which starts in childhood, which develops into brotherhood, which develops into adulthood, and so forth. So when I say I don't care to be a part of none of that bullshit, because I see the root of it. And I see through the lens of beyond the smiles. I don't care if they come from the lightest of light and the darkest of dark. I see beyond the illusion that most people give off, because a lot of them are just doing it for status. They're doing it for, inauthenticity. They're doing it from a place of nothing being rooted from a false sense of power, honestly, from their childhood. It all stems from their childhood. That's even the pastors, the preachers, whatever you want to call them, the frats, the school systems. And it comes from the distorted matriarchal, which gives birth to the patriarchal that you see now. The systems that have been put in place through the last couple 100 years, where you see the churches that are the St. Paul's, the St. Charles, the Saint this, Saint that. It ain't nothing saint about it. Ain't nothing integrity about it, because most men don't know of the distortion of how things came to be and how they don't want to acknowledge the matriarchal, and how a lot of it is so distorted that they actually have built a lot of these infrastructures, a lot of these things from the very hands, from the very blood, sweat, and tears, stolen, twisted from the matriarchal. And I'm here to call your bluff. So again, I'm not here to change anything that you're doing, but a lot of things will run its course. A lot of people, kids, will figure them out. I always tell people, you can uphold so much. You can keep building things upon sand, and a lot of these infrastructures are built upon just that, faulty foundations. Because again, nothing that doesn't uphold the woman and her creation, her life, which we all come through a woman to be here. And a lot of these pastors, a lot of these things that are created and built, has done everything to keep the woman, the feminine principle, feminine and masculine principle, the divine feminine and masculine principle that upholds both mother and father energies, which a lot of churches, which a lot of things in place have done, tried to their best to replace the mother with the man. A lot of those things religiously as well. When you look at a lot of ancient texts, a lot of ancient things before it was distorted, has and will be returned to its original state. There are pictures, when you see a lot of things that try to make it seem like man, because it gives off this illusion, or gives off this false hierarchy or empowerment that a man in himself has done all these things, and have women believing that this is why and who you are, because of man, because of a certain figure. And even if that was to be true, there's still nothing that honors and upholds the very being that came before that person. Even how the image of something was created to keep people in a loop of believing that their time wasn't going to come. So and the funny thing from all of this is you can see it play out so well when you don't see a lot of men who have this false sense of empowerment or woundedness. Even their belief systems are questionable. Their foundation are questionable. Their actions are questionable. How they treat the woman is questionable. How they treat children, questionable. All of these things, all these very things. So when we say brotherhood, how can you not honor sisterhood? How can you not see the mirror reflection of how the woman also teaches you, and you learn from her as well? We get our wisdom. Well, most importantly, we get our knowledge, but our wisdom through the lessons of the woman. So these are the things that are returning to its rightful place. The order that people can no longer, I'm tearing this gum up, I'm telling, keep away from society and also humanity. Because I know too many so well, pastors and preachers, it's almost like they signed their lives over to be a part of a crumbling society. And some of them are so prideful and egotistical that they'll go to their death with it, even because that's what they're assigned to do. But for you young men, such as myself, your purpose is not in your father's shadow, or even trying to do the same thing that he did. Because that false sense of empowerment, false sense of discipline, false sense of hierarchy will all come crumbling, because you have your own individual path. You have your own purpose that you are supposed to live outside of the shadow of men who do not honor the feminine principles within themselves, or do not honor the truth about who it is they are and what they're supposed to be. And everything will still eventually be exposed, as it should be and continue to be. Learn to develop your own belief system. You're watching the old world die away. You're watching the old world that you once knew, that was created even for you to believe that you're more higher and valuable than women. And it was never intended that way. It's all playing out purposefully, just so you can come back home to yourself. Love yourself, respect yourself. Again, men, we're very simple, just like women. A lot of you have fathers that don't respect you because they don't respect themselves. They respect their craft, they respect their religious beliefs or their own belief system. They respect other things more than their relationship with themselves and you. They hold their self-empowered, self-righteous ways above their own deeper connection with their emotional intelligence, their purpose, because they were swayed by the world, because they allow the money, they allow the power, the false empowerment that they try to aggressively use externally, rather than realizing that the true power comes from within. And if they're not teaching you or guiding you to yourself, they are a false leader or false prophet, however you want to title it. If that father, those brotherhoods, whatever it is not leading you to yourself, to master yourself, to learn you more than anything, then my brother, you have been fooled. Take care of yourself, love yourself. Peace and bliss. Shalom.